Hi knitters, welcome to PJ Knits. My name's Penny and I live in Central Illinois, and I'm a knitter, a blogger, and a YouTube podcaster. Thank you all to coming back and listening to me talk about knitting and knitting adventures and my family and things that are going on here in Central Illinois and the weather. So today is Monday, July 10th. I just got back from Iowa celebrating my oldest granddaughter's birthday and my youngest grandson's birthday that was here from Illinois, went over. And I've had a great weekend. House full of kids, so much fun. I got in a little knitting on the deck. I got a lot of playing with my grandkids, doing grandma things. And so had just a super nice weekend. I love getting together with them, and they're so much fun. And a couple of them really enjoy watching me knit on occasion, so that's kind of fun too. So it was a great weekend. The weather over in Iowa was beautiful, not super warm, but sunshiny, and like I said, it was just a really wonderful weekend. So came back here yesterday, and here in Illinois, Central Illinois, there's a little bit of a breeze out today. Our weather this week is going to be sunshiny. It looks like maybe a little rain midweek, and then it's going to be high 80s, 90s. So, but if there's a nice breeze, that's not so bad for knitting on the porch. So enjoying that, and that's kind of what's been going on weather-wise. Doesn't really matter what it's going to be here for me come Thursday. I am heading out to Marshfield, Wisconsin, to Meg Swanson's knitting camp. So super stoked about that. I haven't been since 2019. This year's camp will be different because my roomie Linda is unable to go, and several people that we used to go to knitting camp have passed, and so it will be really kind of a new experience for some of us who are going and used to having those people there. So, but we're going to go and have fun and enjoy a weekend of knitting with 50, 60 of my closest knitting friends from across the United States, along with Meg Swanson, Amy Dachin, and my knitting pals. So I'm looking forward to that. That's why today's mug is an homage to Elizabeth Zimmerman. If you have watched before, you know I am a fan of all things easy. She's the one who got me started knitting back again in '83 by some videos that were on PBS here, and found in '96 my first knitting camp with Meg Swanson, and the rest is history. I skipped a few years after that, but or probably early 2000s started going and had went at least 15, 16 years. I really have to look that up and see how long I've attended. But when we finally got into the 2.75 group, my friends and I, Linda Shar and Norma and I at one time, that's the group for us, because it's a lot of people who have continued to be there and have welcomed us into their community, which is super fun. And that's what I like about PJ Knits and the podcast, and also our Zooms. So I'm having fun building this community and meeting all of you as well. As far as Zooms are concerned, July's been busy for me, and I will not be at this week's. I was not at last week's, and but I will be back on the 22nd. But then there will be no Zoom the last Saturday in July, because we'll all be going, most of us, to Hoffman Estates to the 3-ply podcast, Frivolous and Frugal mini meetup in Hoffman Estates. And so there will be none at the end of the July, but in August we should be back to normal. I should be home for a few weeks, probably on the Saturdays. I just want to give a shout out again to Marie. Thank you, Marie, for hosting Saturday nights when I can't be there. I do appreciate it, so that we don't lose any momentum with the Zoom. So thanks, Marie, again, and I will see her in person at the end of the month. So if you can, join Marie over on Zoom this Saturday. I know she'd love to ask you about your knitting, and ask her about hers, will you? She's doing a super fun thing, and making me, Grandma, get back to my pig at some point in time, but that's for another story. So anyway, where can you find me? I have a blog, www.pjknits.blogspot.com, where I post about a lot of things, mostly my knitting, but some of the knitting adventures will be there as well, and life in general, and you just never know what you'll find there. I am PJKnits1 on Ravelry, so you can check out all of my projects there. Our group is PJKnits, and I post a lot, as much as possible, on Instagram under PJKnits as well. So anyway, that's the places that you can find me and all about the knitting things. So let's get started with some knitting. Grab your cuppa and your knitting, because I've got some things to tell you about, and this may be a little bit of a long one. So excuse me. My mug is courtesy of Annetta. I have had it before, but it's very appropriate for this week since I'll be going to knitting camp. Properly practice knitting soothes the troubled spirit, and it doesn't hurt the in troubled spirit either. And that's a quote by Elizabeth Zimmerman. And this was a gift from Annetta a couple of years back, when y'all know what was going on. So anyway, little frog in my throat today, purely allergies. This is with me, I guess, for the duration till late fall. But anyway, so I apologize in advance if I have to cough. But I'm drinking my cup up. Okay, couple of things. Cut bait. Fish or cut bait is something that I love that. I love that saying. And it has to do with fishing, I'm sure, but it has to do with life as well. And I use it for my knitting, because periodically I will look at some whips and I will either fish them, which means continue them on, or put them back in rotation, or think about doing them for the future, or I will cut bait, or I will say, you're gone. I don't love you anymore. So I did some fishing or cut bait, and this last few weeks I cut bait on two things. First thing I cut bait on was my Yume number 2 that I showed you last episode. I wasn't loving the color. It's not that I wasn't loving the color. It's that it was so similar to a lot of other things I had, and I wasn't loving the knitting of it in that yarn. I certainly love my Yume that I knit last winter out of the Barocco Remix. Yes, Remix. I love it. And I would make it again, but I just wasn't loving the yarn. It wasn't marrying up, and it was too close to a lot of colorways. It was a plain aqua, and I just wasn't feeling it. So I have pulled that off the needles, cut bait on it. I tossed the yarn that I had done already, because I decided to donate the rest of it. So I donated the rest of that Knit Picks yarn, and it'll either go to hospice or possibly, if there's a put and take table at a future knitting event, then I will take it there as to donate to give away to people. So I did that, and then I also cut bait on my pressed flower shawl. If you watched the last couple episodes, you know that was a whip from a couple of years ago, and I was thinking seriously about doing it. And I wasn't loving it as much as I think I needed to go up a needle size, and I just wasn't enjoying the knit as much. I was kind of in a mode where I just wanted to knit on things that were, that I was loving, and I wasn't loving it. So what I did is I cut bait on that, pulled it off the needles, and put the yarn back into PYS for future projects. So I did a little cut baiting, and I'm 2 whips down because of it. Let's put it that way. Hashtag Summer of Shawls 2023. That is the ongoing, one of the ongoing KALs that we are doing here It goes through the last day of summer, which is September 23rd. Yes, you can crochet, you can use whips, or you can knit shawls. And if you will post those on Instagram using the hashtag Summer of Shawls 2023, but if you will also post them in our Ravelry group, PJKnits, under the finished object, we will be giving away at the end of summer a Queen Sandy bag amongst one of the finished shawls. And I love to get inspired. And it can be a one skein shawl or a huge shawl, whatever you decide to do. We'd love to see what you're knitting on in shawls. There is probably a bundle also on the PJKnits Ravelry page if you need some ideas. If there's not, there will be. And again, links to my projects as well. So what I wanted to show you this week on one of my shawls that I have long since finished, and this one is called Lala's Simple Shawl, and it's by Laura Lindemann, I believe is her last name, of the Knit Girls podcast. This one is a free pattern. It's triangular in shape. It's a nice long shawl for me, and now a nice long one. I knit this in 2013 and 2014. This was a Noro Tayo sock yarn that I purchased at Knit 4 Together way back when, probably is in my PYS way prior to that. And so I knit that. I wanted to knit a shawl. And the thing is, it was so neat when I pulled this out, is that I realized how many colors are in here and how well this will go with not only just my turquoise, but definitely with blue jeans or with purples, denims, whatever. So I think this one is going to go with me to knitting camp for when we go out to dinner in the evenings, because it may be a little bit warmer as we go out to eat, and then in the restaurant I'll have something to cover up with. So, but I'm going to add this to my my knitting camp knits to take with. Super loving this. So this was on a size 9 needle. It was a relatively quick and easy knit. I totally would recommend this for new shawl knitters as well, if that's where you want to go. Now, in the next couple of days, in the description box down below, there will be a couple of links I would love for you to check out. I found some YouTube videos that show how to style your triangular shawls, because for me, I wore a lot of triangular shawls, and I've said this before, when I was working, especially in the winter time, because my work wardrobe was some sort of navy or black or brown pants, a turtleneck, and a shawl wrapped around my neck for work. So I have a lot of triangular shawls because they were quick and easy to do, and I used them as an accessory. So I'm going to show those links down below, because these ladies had a couple of really super cool ideas on how to style them. They are Knitting in the Park. And also there was on Craftsy, there was some pictures that they show. Craftsy showed some pictures of some triangular shawls that were styled. So check those in the description box in a couple of days. They'll be down there at the latest. So, and then I have mine that is a work in progress right now. This is in a bamboo bag that my friend Debbie made for me a year or so back. It's the perfect size bag. It's made out of that bamboo. And Debbie will be in episode 100, which will be our 100th episode. She's going to come and celebrate with me. But anyway, this was a gift from her. And I wanted to just show you what I'm working on periodically. There's so many other things that are vying for knitting attention. But this is Unwind by Tracie Millar. And I have talked about this one before. This is, the yarns are from a local dyer that is no longer dyeing. It was Neon Unicorn Studios, and these were in my PYS. Been there several years. And I bought them, thought process, talked about this last episode, what to be kind of a fall Halloween shawl. When I'm out knitting, I wanted something to wear for Halloween, and I didn't really have any Halloweeny. So this is it so far, and this is a fun knit as well. This has stellina in it, It is a fingering weight. It's Campfire Stories. That's this one here. And then this one is just a plain charcoal, okay? And I'm doing this on a size 6 needle, which was a suggested needle. And yes, it's a little bit looser, but I'm just going with it. So I'm having so much fun with this. And so that is one of the shawls that I am concentrating on right now. A few weeks back, I decided that it was time to put some of my PYS yarns into bins instead of just leaving them out on the shelves. I was kind of worried. I was kind of getting worried about them. So what I did is I tossed my stash, or my PYS as it would be, and a friend gave me these 24 clear bins. And so what I did during that time is I pulled out every bin, and I have, let's just say, a lot of bins of PYS, and I pulled out every yarn was touched when I went through this process. I started on a Friday afternoon, and I think I finished it Saturday night, Sunday, when I should have been knitting on my burra cowl. Funny how you can be procrastinating to rearrange your PYS instead of working on what you said you were going to be working on. But it was a fun weekend to do that, and I touched every bit of PYS that I had and put it into bins according to like sock weight, all that was definitely socks. Another couple of bins has 2 skeins of the like yarn that definitely were meant to be shawls when I purchased them. And so so I rearranged all of my stash and put it according to weight, or like alpacas went all together, and my Cascade 220 wools all went in a bin together, and all of those things so that it could be better protected. Thought was, as I was doing this, I found some really cool yarns for shawls that I'm like, oh, I remember that. And so Summer of Shawls will continue beyond Summer of Shawls, evidently, because there were so many cool things. And I found some really cool sweater yarns and some thoughts for transitional and winter knitting. So it was so much fun. But really, as it pertains to Summer of Shawls, I found some really cool summer yarns as well. So there's just not enough months for summer, right? And it won't be long, and I shouldn't say it won't be long. It wasn't too long ago that I was like, when is fall coming? I'm over this 95-degree weather and humidity, right? So anyway, let's take a break. Let's take a cup of sip here and motor on. Okay. Let's do finished objects. First up, my latest obsession is the Colorshift Shawl by Carina Spencer. I've had this one in my library for some time and decided recently that it was time to knit on this. Had so much fun. This cowl, capelet, used up for me, I picked out of my PYS 4 yarns that were destined to be a shawl at one time. But this is a great project for using those one skeiners, let's call them, of souvenir yarns that you went into a shop and you bought, right? So I just loved this, and this is so much fun. This is my latest travel knitting project, if I can say that, because it's easy to take 4 skeins of yarn, the multiple sizes of needles in my knitting bag, and to pull this out and do some rows and rounds on it, right? Now, the thing is, it's rib, and people go poo-poo on the rib, but you know, this was the perfect project for me to take over when I went to see the grandkids when I had time, or when I was sitting at night, or when they were reading or watching screen time, or all of that. So this was a perfect project for this. It used 4 skeins, most of 4 skeins out of my stash. And this is the Colorshift. I'm going to put it on, I'll put it on for you. Now, a couple of things on that. I'm working on another one. That should be no surprise. But a couple of things. This would be, again, this is going to go with me to Meg Swanson's knitting camp. Because, hold that down, a couple of things. Perfect for going out at night, for sure. Okay. Now, the thing on my next one is I want this to be a little bit longer, and I think for me, I'm going to jump up a needle size as we get down here, because I do have larger arms, and I want it to be just a little bit wider. Now, I did not fully block this when I could have stretched it more, but I just love this. What I love is a couple of things. If you saw my Instagram, sorry. Oh my gosh. Tuck my beard in. A nice something in the wintertime underneath your coat, right? And you definitely could just pull it up and whatever. What I am going to do also, and maybe the next one I'm knitting on right now is for my oldest granddaughter, because all of a sudden we are sharing like colorways. We like the same colorways. So it's for her, but on mine, on the next one that I do for me, I am going to actually, and I made it the length that she suggested, Carina suggested in the pattern. And I still had some of this yarn, as you can tell, left over. And I think my next one is, at this point, when she says to stop, I'm going to go up another needle size here. And I'm going to go a little bit longer, because I really would like to have it just a little bit longer. And I may, on mine, instead of starting with the smaller needle size that she said up here, I may start up with a larger needle all along, starting right here, instead of what she suggested on the pattern. I think on mine, for my granddaughter, it will be fine the way it is, because she's a small child. She's just, 11. But for me, I'm going to start maybe one size larger needle here and go one size larger all the way down, and then I'm going to lengthen it as well. So stay tuned for how that all scopes out. But that is the Colorshift that is a finished object. So I'm loving that. I am just loving that. Now, that is also to say, the one that is on the needles, that is for my granddaughter, which is perfectly fine on the needles that it's on, as suggested by her pattern. It's a paid-for pattern, so you can check that out, Carina Spencer. But here is the first colorway. And these are all ones that were in my PYS, and I pulled them out and used them for my Garter Marlar, and I had sufficient of the skeins left. So these are all from PYS. A couple of them from, this one is from my Ground Pepper number 2 that I had plenty of yarn. And so then others were in that, in my Garter Marlar. This one came out of PYS, okay? This is the Costeau. And then finally, to round it off with this. So these are going to be for my granddaughter. She loves those. and she was thrilled about that. I asked her, hey, would you like that? And she said yes. So that one is on the needles for my granddaughter, and again, it's on the needle suggested by Carina in the pattern. And when I get to doing my next one, I will go up needle sizes because I really want it to be a little bit larger, right? So anyway, I am totally loving everything about this, and I encourage you all, if you need a little a gifty knitting, or you want to use some of that single skeins yarns out of your PYS, this is the perfect thing to be doing for that. Okay, so fun stuff. Okay, I have another one. I'm going to show you a finished object, but that is in conjunction with the mistletoes. I pick out posts. Okay, let's just take a sip. Take a moment, Penny. When I see the timer, I keep thinking I gotta hurry up because you all are gonna jump off or whatever. But anyway, here we are. Back to the knitting podcast. So, where was I? Oh, mistletoes. In the Ravelry group, we are doing a year-long knit-along, which is called Mistletoes. And every end of quarter, I go in and I choose a winner for a sock pattern of your choice. Can be whatever you want hopefully from Ravelry, for knitting socks and giving me some inspiration on socks. And so we have a second quarter winner. The winner is number 147, which is Carol. Yay! Carol did, she said this was the first time she did the shadow heel. I want to say, I've never done the shadow heel either. And so check out Carol's post number 147, the sock that she was doing, and check it out. Carol, if you will contact me and let me know on Ravelry what new sock pattern you'd like to have, I will gift that to you. So what I wanted to show you is I got a little bit of inspiration from you all. And I decided to try. I had some leftovers from, it was from the Advent 2020 from the Cozy Knitter is what it was. I had leftovers and from the sock that I knit then. If you remember, or if you've been watching before, you know that I am really been a die-hard double point sock knitter. When I first learned how to knit socks, they were double points, and I have stayed with double points forever. I knit a lot of socks for my friend Norma, all in double points, mine all in double points. I have toyed around occasionally with magic loop, just was not feeling it as well. I've tried a couple of times. I tried shorties. I just have arthritis, here, that just does not like the little circumference on the little needles. So I've tried that. I have never done 2 at a time, and I have no interest in doing 2 at a time either, because I don't really have, I might at times have had second sock syndrome, but that's mainly because I wasn't loving what I was knitting on, right? Or it was giving me fits with my hands. So I decided to try to give Magic Loop another try. And so I took some leftovers from that Advent 2020, and I decided to try to do some shorty socks. And so what I did is I cast on these shorties. This is called Get Shorty Socks. This is by Irene of the 3 Ply Podcast. It's Irene Designs on Ravelry. It's a pay-for pattern. I highly recommend it for short ones. This was fun to do. Here's her pattern. And I decided that I was going to knit this totally magic loop. I was going to give it a whirl. Now, full disclosure, the first one I did, I cast on double points because I wanted to knit it. And it was giving me fits with my hands, and I'm like, I want to get back to sock knitting because I do enjoy it. I love wearing socks all winter long in my boots, around the house, whatever. And so I wanted to get back into it, but the double points were really just hurting my hands. So I cast on the first one with double points, and then a little ways down when it was giving me fits, I pulled out they're not the longest 40, they're probably 32-inch, size 1 needles. Two things I tried differently. I tried magic loop on this, and I went down to a size 1 because I went down to a size 1 needle because I felt like my other socks, as they were being worn, they were getting looser, and I wanted a little bit tighter on my foot. So I think I found a size 1 is the right size of needle for me. I've been on like a 1.5. On another pair I'm doing is a 1.5, and it's kind of tight as well, which is fine. But I also did a new heel on this. This is called the Strong Heel. And so I kind of liked it, and I'll let you know how this works because I'm going to give it a test run in my tennis shoes to see if I like this, because this may be a new heel besides the slip, the heel flap and gusset that I normally use. But anyway, so here we go. I had enough yarn. I think it was about, I decided it was like 95 yards per sock is what it took. And then about 2 grams for the toe. I didn't have enough to do the decreases on the toe on these. So I used some Lolo Did It in, did some Lolo Did It. Let's just go to the page, Penny. Yeah, 2 grams for total per sock. No, 2 grams per sock out of Lolo Did It Naked Hippo, and then 95 yards for each sock out of the Cozy Knitter Bliss Advent 2020 stripe. And I started these back in June, finished them early this morning. And so here we are. This is the Get Shorty socks, and I am super pleased with the turnout, and they fit my foot, and I'll let you know how they feel in tennis shoes because that's where I'm going to be wearing them. Here we go. Good. Get Shorty. Super, super loving this. There's the heel. Fun, fun rib and decreases. Just a really super cool. So check this pattern out. This is Get Shorty by Irene Designs on Ravelry of the 3-Ply podcast. And so I'm super, super stoked by that. And this Lolo Did It has been used in a lot of things. I actually used this in the original socks for my heel toes, and my cast on, I think. Anyway, heels and toes at least. So that was super, super fun. And so that's my finished object. I'm happy to report that I have thoughts on another one to knit, and I'm going to do it magic loop. I think I've been converted, guys, and so never say never, but I can say that I'm not going to do 2 at a time. I'm not into changing the balls and all that. I have a hard enough time, if you follow me on the Burra Cow, doing manipulating all those skeins as well. So anyway, that's Get Shorty socks, and I am just super pleased about that and wanted to tell you all about those. Okay, so that is Mistletoes. Congratulations, Carol. Let me know what sock pattern you would like. Okay, let's go to #PJKnitssummer. This is also a knit along for those of you who want to join in. This is all about knitting summer sweaters. This goes through the end of July, because for me this end of July is going to be maybe into a little bit into August is going to be the end of my summer sweaters. Hopefully they'll be done by then, and then I'm going to be jumping into transitional sweaters for sure. But want to talk about that. It goes through the end of July. I am, again, when I was looking at my stash and some patterns and things over the 4th of July weekend, I am just itching to start fall and some transitional sweaters. I have a couple more in summer that I've talked about that I want to continue to be knitting on, and I'm just going to share those with you here. One, this is going to be a project that is, and I've talked about it last time, this is a project that's going to knitting camp with me because I think it's going to be the perfect sweater for knitting while we're sitting there during when we're in the big classroom listening to Meg or others. And so it is the Friday Tea by PetiteKnit. And this was, you know, one of those that Noelle knit a couple of times. I've talked about it before. I've just kind of cast on it. And here is my 2 yarns. They are Sandus Garn Sunday yarn. It is very much a fingering weight. The jacket goes perfect with that. There's like a floating theme with that particular yarn and pattern. And if you remember from my journal, this was kind of the inspiration picture. And I said to myself, I'm going to do it just like PetiteKnit did. But I'm thinking, wouldn't that be fun to try and do more than one stripe? So I don't know, check back after knitting camp and I'll let you know how it goes, right? But definitely here is the jacket from Talbot's that I got. And I think it's going to come in more than handy for not just the Friday one, but for something that I got in mail call today. So that's going to be one of my knitting projects that I take to knitting camp to knit on. The other one is one that's also in progress that I'm having fun with, and I'm getting to the point where, again, this is all knitted, so a perfect project for evening knitting or knitting down at the shop or knitting on the riverfront. It is Pampas Tea. This is by Samantha, Guerin Designs, same one who did Salty Air Tea, and I like that pattern so much that when she came out with this, I'm like, this, I have yarn, more linen quill, and so here is that design. Pampas Tea, I'm having fun with that one as well. This one is also going to knitting camp with me, and it is out of linen quill, which is the Celadon. And I have done the lace, and you really can't, the lace, this doesn't give it justice on the lace because you really have to block it out. But that is the colorway. It is Celadon, and on this one, I have 3 skeins, and I know that on my Salty Air Tea, I had used 2 and some into the 3rd. This particular one, I'm going to use up all of them. I'm going to make it a little bit longer, probably a little bit longer rib at the waist, and then I'm going to make longer sleeves, maybe 3/4 sleeves, so that I can wear it as a transitional sweater as well. So I'm going to be knitting on that one. This particular one, when I did this one, I am using a size 4 needle right now. Once I get to the split and go down towards the body, then I will check my gauge and see how it's going. I may have to go up a needle size or 2, which is normally what I would do if I wanted a little more width to the garment. So we'll find out as we knit along on that one. I also cast on a size smaller for this one than I did the Salty Air Tea because I did not want to, it's not meant to go over anything. It's going to just be over the body, and I wanted it just a little bit not as loose as my Salty Air Tea, so I went down a size on that one as well. So that couple of projects that are going to knitting camp, and those are kind of I think my last one I'm calling Summer Knits, really for now. I have been, the Tulsa Tea has been calling me, but, and I may do that one yet, but I just don't know. Right now, like I said, when I did my PYS, there was so many things that I wanted to cast on like right away. So anyway, I wanted to share what I'm wearing. These are a couple of sweaters from my wardrobe. This one, another knitting pure and simple summer Cardi. I knit this in 2017. I used size 4, 5, and 6 needles to get what I wanted. There's no buttons on it. Again, I did some fun stuff here under the arms for increases underneath the arm. And this yarn took about 822 yards. The yarn has been discontinued. I can tell you that because I knit it so long ago, but the yarn is Rowan Pure Life. Definitely, again, the Barocco remix that has possibilities for this. If you need just some sort of cover up over a tank, much like I've got here, then this is a good option. Now, the fun thing about this, the story that I have to tell about this yarn, I bought this years and years and years ago, okay, at a yarn shop up on one of our Knitwits knitaways. And I found it was intended to be something else. And I didn't, as time goes on, I wasn't loving what I chose, so it went into my PYS. Then when Espace Triciot, the original Lisa and Melissa, started podcasting, they showed this particular pattern, which is called the Ombre tank. It's a free pattern. I knitted in 2017, and I knitted out of the yarns that they actually designed their first one out of. It is Habu textile silk, and I bought all of the colorways so that I could get the exact sweater that they knit. Okay, so here it is. A little marling before the marling was a thing, right? And I love this one. And it's been revamped a couple of times. It has a rolled hem here at the bottom, which is okay because I made mine, I think, to make it a little bit longer. Again, notes are on my project page, okay? So this was all of the Habu textile silk yarn. I knit it in 2017, size 5 needles, okay? And I'm like, well, I'm not going to wear this just by itself. And I tossed around different possibilities, looking for sweaters, purchase sweaters to wear over it. And I stumbled upon this yarn in my PYS, which is not even the same vendor, but went perfectly with it. And if you can see, there's some blues in here. There's some burgundies. There's some turquoise. Became the perfect sweater to go over this, which matched just what I was wanting for this summer knit. Both of these you can still knit, just choose a different yarn for this one. And I lengthened the sleeves again because that's just what I do. So I'm just giving you a couple of options for still some summer knits that you can still wear. And I just love this. And I forget how much I love this one. And keeping with my blue jean denim lifestyle, right? So it goes with everything that I love. So I just wanted to share these with you. I think Knitting Pure and Simple, again, doesn't get as much looking time as they used to. This was, in the beginning of our yarn shop, local yarn shop. This was it. This was you bought these patterns off the rack, right? There wasn't any downloads at that time. And so I just encourage you, and even if you're a new knitter or if you're not sure what you want to knit, as a new knitter or a first-time garment knitter, I encourage you to look at Knitting Pure and Simple, and definitely this tank. I love it, and I think I would use it again. The next one, I would probably not do a rolled hem, just because I don't need the rolled hem as much, right? But definitely give both of those patterns a look for your PJKnitssummer knits, and you still have time. Relatively quick and easy and fun knits. So touch on knitting adventures just a little bit. Again, I'm leaving later this week for Meg Swanson's knitting camp. Today I am auditioning outfits, and a couple of things, you know, just while we were sitting here talking about things, I've got some laid out across my couch of things that I want to take. I've tried on a couple of t-shirts. Will they go with the sweater knit that I want to take? Because the room is all, for me, is pretty chilly, so I'm auditioning knits today. So that's what I'm working on, planning my knits, planning my ensemble, as it would be, of what to go with. It definitely will be blue jeans for sure, because it's chilly and, you know, all that stuff. I like to be warm, and there will be hand knits that go with me as well. So that's kind of fun. At the end of the month, I'm going to Hoffman Estates for the Frivolous and Frugal 3-ply podcast mini meetup. Looking so much forward to that and seeing a lot of you. So that's coming up in Knitting Adventures. And then you'd see I've already planned my knitting, right, what we're doing. So anyway, fun stuff coming up for Knitting Adventures. June journal updates. Let's just look at the June journal and see where we were at. I only did 3 squares in June because I was traveling a little bit. I did cut bait. Those things were in May, and my talked about that. Started the Pampas tea. 909 yards went out and 0 went in. I cannot say that for July. Yarn has been coming in, and I need to put that in my notebook. But hey, I made it to June without a lot of yarn purchases, but all bets are off now, right? That's for sure. That's for sure. July journals kind of thing. Have plans, my Friday tea, my Pampas tea, Halloween shawl, you know, things like that. And then as far as squares, I'm going to try and keep up while I'm gone. So far I've done 2, but if I don't get one done ahead of time, I have to come home and do one afterwards. But so I'm working on the squares. I'm going to try and I've got 1 more square to complete in a row, and then I'm going to throw it on a double bed to see how close I am to finishing. My plan is to go through the end of the year on it, and hopefully it will be wide enough and long enough to throw on a double bed. I think that'll be a fun little blanket to be there on there. So that's kind of what's going on. So last couple of things I have here, thanks for sticking with me, is mail call. Now, if you are doing the Les Garçons 3-month sock club that are surprises, and you haven't received yours or opened it, you'll want to turn away in just a minute or two, because I'm going to show you what came last week in the July edition of it. I received this on July 6th, and this is called the 3-month sock set club by Les Garçons, and I purchased this while we were sitting at midnight at Montreal, our group knit night. It's called Mysterious Tropics, and I received mine, and here's a little card that came with it. It was wrapped in green tissue with this like sticker on the outside, and so I'm saving it in my journal. Very appropriate. They had me at Tropics. For any of you who had children that are about 40-ish, if you remember back about 35 years ago, one of the things that there was on PBS, and I can't remember what his name was. It wasn't Sesame Street, but it was another one, I think, in the afternoon that the guy came on. It was the one is, where is Carmen San Diego? Where is Carmen San Diego? That one. I had twins, so we watched Carmen San Diego. This guy would come on and he would give you hints about where he was at. But one of the little segments there was, the tropics are hot. Well, anyway, when this came out and I saw Mysterious Tropics, and you know I'm all about the turquoise and the brights and all of that, the tropics. My dream house would be on a beach in the tropics with a turquoise ocean, constantly at me. That's my dream. So Les Garçons had me at the tropics. And so here it comes. This is, and I'm so super pleased that I decided to do this, number one. Number two, that I'm now on to a thought process of an easier way for me to knit more socks, and I'm on to doing some socks for myself. And this is it. It is BFL Socks, Mysterious Flamingo is the main color. The mini is Sandy Beach. Perfect. And here we are. Are you ready? Turn away if you don't want to see it. Da-da-da. Is that not cool? Here's a little progress keeper. And also for my pin board, there was a pin. I am super excited. So I'm going to be looking back at our PJKnits finished object thread on Mistletoes to find a pattern for this. I want to do coordinating heels, toes, and possibly cuffs. I want to do not necessarily just my plain vanilla sock, but maybe some sort of texture sock on the top of the foot. I'm super excited to find a pattern for that, and that's my next cast on as far as the socks are concerned. I am not worrying about the socks that's already on the needle that started oh so long ago for Norma. That's for later, and I want to do that. So I'm going to check out our thread. I'm going to check and see what Carol decides to pattern she's picking out, and if you have other suggestions of socks that I should try out, I would welcome those comments below as well. So that is super cool. I am so excited about that. Something else in my sock thing, I was watching Knitty McPurley and saw this. It's called the Knitty McPurley Sock Ruler, and it can be used for toe up or top down. This has lots of sizes on it for different shoe sizes if you're knitting for people, and then has some needle gauges, ruler, and instructions on how to use it. So I got myself one of those just in time. So as I go about furthering my sock adventure, that was in my mail. And something that just came today that I'm just going to touch on for a moment, because there will be more to talk about this later in future episodes. But you all know that last winter I was casting on Autumn League, and I was knitting, trying to knit it out of some yarn that I purchased at my local yarn shop, and I just wasn't feeling it as well. And so I decided, after a couple of friends had knit this, and another one, Carol, she used the actual yarn for hers, and so I bought some cotton jeans from Lion Brand. They had a sale around the 4th of July, and I actually forgot that this was coming. So I got some cotton jeans in color 1805. And I'm thinking this is going to be a good yarn. Again, another nice sweater that will go underneath that jacket that I've got from Talbot's. So dual duty on that. We'll talk more about that in transition sweaters down the road, most definitely. So, and that's all the knitting I have here. What's to come? Episode 99 will be next. I don't know if I'll do that. My thought was it would be fun to do it from knitting camp, but I may have to wait until after knitting camp. But if I do it during knitting camp, the next one will be episode 100. We will have Debbie here to celebrate with me, and we will have some giveaways as well to celebrate the 100th episode. So I am super pleased that you all decide to come back each time. Please like, please subscribe. More subscribers they just make me feel fun and to see those subscribers. And I hope that there's inspiration here for you as well. That's my whole intention. And I hope you join our knitting community. It's all about knitting, and this is a very appropriate passage that I'm pulling, just kind of paraphrasing, pulling out of the book. I talked about this before. It's called The Power of Knitting by Loretta Napoleoni, and Joyce, way back in episode 85, recommended this for me, and I read it, and it's an interesting book for just in general, some things, getting through life as well. And then also this Loretta's story about how she coped with a lot of things and how she came upon other people who were coping as well. And I think this passage is so appropriate today for the knitting adventures in July, and I just want to share a couple of things. This is a story of a remarkable craft, a much needed social healer that reminds us that to exist, we need each other. All we need to do to break free of our existential malaise is to keep purling and stitching, knitting our lives together. And so I hope that is helpful to you, and a much needed social healer. And that's what I'm going to do in the next weekend, is a social healer, going out and being with some knitting friends and touching bases with people that I've not seen in person for several years, and meeting new friends as well. So thank you again, and till next time, knit on with confidence and hope, and we'll see you later. Thank you. Bye.